This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
This episode was recorded in a talk I gave last week at the Kodeco iOS Bootcamp. I'm talking about a bunch of slides, so if you want to follow along and you get a little lost, you can check out the companion video that I'll have a link in the show notes. Enjoy. I did a webinar on Vision Pro about a year ago, actually, to sort of promote the bootcamp for Vision Pro Bootcamp. But I redid this slide today for you guys. So this is a very, very special bootcamp version of my talk. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vision Pro, state of the platform, I like to call it, how I daily use my Vision Pro, how one might use it, talk a little bit about media consumption, and then we'll look at writing apps for Vision Pro. So, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions and answers. So where we are currently with the state of the Vision Pro, the latest model, the Vision Pro, came out. I've had mine for, I guess, 2 weeks and a day or so. So it came out. Originally, the Vision Pro shipped in February 2024. So most people have had them for 18 months if they lived in the United States. But they, as of June of 2024, they also released them in Australia, Canada, China, France, Germany, Japan, Singapore, and the UK. And I did some rough estimating today. The numbers sort of show that there's about 600,000 Vision Pros that have been sold over the last little while, like thousands of them are M5s, so it's not really flying off the shelves per se. And you'll see why. It's kind of a different paradigm of computing, and I don't think a lot of people haven't really caught on to it yet. I do know there are thousands of us developing for it. We meet up on LinkedIn, we meet up on Slack, we meet up on Discord. There's a couple of groups on Discord I can talk about. And so it's quite an active community. There's a lot of people on, I have I forget what you call those, a playlist, I guess, on Blue Sky, where I sort of post things about visionOS and Vision Pro, and so it sort of highlights the news. I have a little AI that automatically, or not an AI, but a little script that picks up the latest stories and shows them on my page if you go to my profile. So the current version of visionOS is 26.1. We just got an update a week ago, I guess, and I think everybody's on 26 these days, whether you're iOS, macOS, tvOS, and that kind of thing, which is nice. The previous version was 2.0, so we did have a second version of visionOS, so technically this is the third. So the big question I get, I tried to answer last year when I started doing these kind of talks is, why should you learn to create apps for visionOS? And I think it's a green field. There's a lot of things that nobody thought about. The visionOS, obviously, 26 is the operating system that runs on the Vision Pro. It's written primarily in SwiftUI, which should bode well. I assume you guys are learning lots of SwiftUI stuff in your course. It can run apps built for UIKit, but they run in a sort of compatibility mode. They're only available in two-dimensional displays. I have some apps from 2010 that were written under Objective-C using UIKit, and they run on Vision Pro, surprisingly. It's just a matter of checking the box on your developer account on the App Store Connect, I think it's called now. So I've seen apps that are being used. They're being used in surgery where, surgeons are wearing Vision Pros and they can see the scans and things like that floating in front of them. There's a lot of architectural applications, whether it's people designing new layouts or even as simple as you go to an empty lot and you can envision your new kitchen and you can walk through your new virtual house where your real house is going to be. So that's being used a lot in construction. There's a lot of games being developed for Vision Pro. That's an opportunity for people too. Any kind of new app you come up with, new app idea, come up with Vision Pro, that's an opportunity for you to sort of set the world on fire. And actually, I should have gone back to the little black box over there. I've been around since the iPhone, before the iPhone. I was a developer before that, but I kind of got in around the iPad, around 2010. But these apps that are listed here Frontier, Angry Birds, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, Venmo, TikTok, Lyft, Uber, Airbnb, Square, Spotify. None of those things existed before the iPhone. It was because of the iPhone that those businesses and apps came into being, right? And a lot of these were started by individual developers who then, sold them or became or grew into bigger things. Like Instagram was a couple of guys, I think, that got they got bought by Facebook. And it's essentially, it is like an iPad that you wear on your face. It's probably the best kind of analogy in terms of what it is you're doing with the Vision Pro. It's not like a Mac, but it's more like actually the joke at Apple is the inside they call it the face computer. So how do you get, if you haven't got any experience, I could ask if you guys want a thumbs up or whatever, whether any of you have tried the Vision Pro or have a Vision Pro. But if you wanted to get into it, you can join the developer labs. There are still some developer labs around. That QR code there, by the way, is a link to the Work with Apple link, which lists some of the upcoming labs. They have them in all of the places like Singapore, the UK, at Battersea. They have them in California. They occasionally have them in New York if you're on the East Coast like I am. I actually went to Cupertino, and you can see here I was there in one of the first boot camps, and I went in with a skeptical mindset. I mean, I thought like, okay, it's cool, it's a VR thing, but I'm not really into VR, so why would this be a product I would be interested in? But having went down there, and you have basically 5 hours to play around with the device with your own code. So I brought some apps down to try out, and I was immediately blown away by the whole thing, and so much so that I invested the money and bought a Vision Pro before it was even available in my country. I'm in Canada, by the way. The other thing you can do is you can also go to the app stores. You can book an appointment at an Apple if you're in a country where the Vision Pro is available. You can book a demo at Apple, and you go in and they scan. This is my grandson, by the way, wearing the T-shirt. They scan your glasses. They give you a pair of optical inserts that fit your particular prescription, and then they show you a sort of a canned demo of what you can do on a Vision Pro, how to watch movies, how to deal with photos and that kind of stuff, and how to check your email and use a browser, things like that. But the developer lab, if you're serious about looking into developing, it's basically you just have to get yourself over to one of the labs, and it's no cost to you to do that, right? So let's talk a little bit about using the Vision Pro. And so what is this spatial computing thing? I don't know if you guys have kind of wondered what that is. So I happened to be in New Brunswick last year, and I put my Vision Pro on, and I walked over to my family has a big farm with a pond. I went around the pond, and I opened windows, and I left them. So this is my joke as to what is spatial computer. You literally can open your email, 100 meters away from you, or 100 feet away from you, or 1,000 feet away from you, and the window will stay there, and you can work on it. You can interact with it. There's a little bar at the bottom. You can actually grab that little bar, and it'll bring it towards you. So the slide on the right hand side, that's more likely what you'd do. You would you'd have maybe your social stuff in the front. You'd have your browser floating above you on the left, and you might have your Apple TV application over on the right. And that's what says 3D movies. That's the Apple TV thing. So for me, before I get into the working on it, I consume all of my movies and TV. I watch TV shows. I have a TV app on my phone. Most of the apps, Hulu. There is a way to watch Netflix, and there's a way to watch Amazon Prime. Paramount is on there. It's native in the United States. It's not native here in Canada, but it's like an iPad app. But yeah, I consume a lot of stuff, and I watch a lot of movies in 3D. Are just phenomenal to watch in Vision Pro. But when it comes to working with the Vision Pro, a lot of people ask me about, how do you work with it? So in this particular screen, this is my desk. This is what I'm looking at right now. I've got the monitor in the middle. I've got my Mac floating there on a stand. I got my iPad beside me. I've got another monitor connected to my iPad. I got my podcast equipment and stuff like that. So this is kind of where, if I was sitting at my desk doing my work, this is what I'd be looking at, right? But when I put the Vision Pro on and I turn on the Mac mirroring, I get this big giant 4K display off my little 14-inch MacBook Pro, right? So this is like a screen that's now 4 feet wide that's floating in front of me in high resolution. It's a little, if you notice it, I don't, the way Vision Pro works is wherever you're looking is where it spends the energy to focus. So the image may look a little bit blurry, but that's kind of just the way screenshots work on Vision Pro. Yeah, so I got room to open up my browser, and I have my my iPad simulator, my iPhone simulator, and I have my Xcode in the middle. That's kind of my how I can work. There's another mode that they added in the second version of Vision Pro where you have this ultra wide screen, which is basically like this is what I normally work on is the ultra wide, and it's probably it visually feels like it's about 5 or 6 feet wide, and it's tall, so it's like one of those big giant displays you might see in an office. It's curved, as you can see here. But you've got even more real estate to kind of open up your apps. But they've got this crazy ultra wide one. It's so big that you actually have to turn your head from one side to the other to see either side of it, right? And the cool thing about Vision Pro, it doesn't really show it much in this slide here, is I can make this look like it's 20 feet away from me and 15 feet high. Right, but it still has the same curvature as if it's like when I open this on the kitchen table, it looks like it's 6 or 7 feet wide. When I'm watching a movie in Letterbox on my TV app, it looks like it's a 12-foot wide screen. And I live in a small house. I don't have room for a big screen like that. So here's an example of me watching I don't know if the sound is coming through. There's some of the sound in this thing, but this is me watching the keynote for WWDC last year. Got my photo app over there. Got my email above. Got some notes up there I'm taking. This is a Zoom meeting that I'm involved in. Got my, my Slack open over here. So all of this is kind of happening. This is what it's like to work on Vision Pro. You just put the windows around you and you surround yourself with all the stuff you need to work on, right? So. And that's kind of what it's like to work on Vision Pro with all these windows. You may have also seen Apple Immersive Video. These are like the videos that take over your whole peripheral vision. So like it's like this woman here sitting on the couch, and these elephants are running past her, and they're in 8K stereo images, and you get this one rhino. It literally looks like he's coming this close to you. Another really cool thing about Vision Pro is this idea of spatial FaceTime. And the gentlemen here that are in this picture or in this video, this is Christian over there waving. He's in Berlin. Oliver in the middle is in Sydney. And Josh over there is in Phoenix, Arizona. And the four of us meet every 2 weeks in spatial FaceTime, and we talk about the business. We talk about what's going on with Vision Pro, and have you seen this, and have you tried that, and as you can see, like in real time, they can actually fist pump and high five each other. And Christian, who's now got his eye closed on the right-hand side, he wrote an app called The Green Spout, which is using Tabletop Kit, which you may have heard about, which is basically a game that we could open this up between us in spatial FaceTime, and all of us could interact with the game individually. So you can play like chess or backgammon or, games like card games. You can play those kind of things in virtual space. And like I said, Oliver is on the other side of the world for me. So for me, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. For him, it's 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So I always joke with him that he's in the future. So let's talk a little bit about developing a Vision Pro. There are basically 3 types of applications you can create. The window one, I still think is the majority of apps out there. If you take an existing iPhone app or iPad app and you make it Vision Pro, the easiest thing is to put it in a window and it runs in there. And that's sort of the virtual space that you just saw there with my room and all the windows. That's called the shared space. So a window opens up in the shared space, and those previous slides we just looked at, that would be what it would look like in the shared space. It's just a flat 2D window. You look at it, your mouse, instead of using a mouse, you look at things with your eyes, and then you do a pinch gesture with your finger to make a selection, to tap it, pinch to hold it, move it around, that kind of thing. That's your interface to it. You can also, if you're connected to your Mac, you can also use your trackpad and your keyboard, and you can mouse from your Mac screen over to one of the apps on the Vision Pro, and you can actually interact with it using your trackpad. Second kind of app is called a volume app, and I'll show an example of one of this later. But it's basically an app that floats in a cube, basically 1 cubic meter or 39 inches roughly square by 39 deep by 39 high. Um, but and that's so you have an object that floats in three-dimensional space in front of you, right? As opposed to a 2D window. And you can some of these apps you can interact with and that kind of stuff. And then the third type of app is called an immersive app. And this is one where you can take over the entire visual space of the user. So in other words, you take them out of the room and you put them into an environment that you've created, you've designed, and then they interact with your app, and that way they can play a game. Or not, I'll show you a couple of examples of that later, like a punching game that I have a video of. Um, a workout game, I guess. But you can also dial that back. So one of the cool things about visionOS is I can make it look like I'm sitting at Mount Hood, or I can be sitting on the moon. Instead of sitting in my office, I can make the rest of my environment look like I'm sitting on the moon, and I've got my email out window open and my Safari window open and that kind of stuff. And generally, when you make an immersive app, you decide whether you want to have it in full screen, where it basically takes over the entire view of the user, the person who's using your app, or you can have it mixed, where you might have a virtual object floating in front of you, but you can still see they can actually see their actual environment through pass-through video as well, right? So environments are what I talked about earlier, where you can have like you can either have the partial front of your view, 180 degrees, look like you're sitting by the lake, with your feet up, or completely surround you, and you can dial that back. There's a digital crown on the top of the Vision Pro that you can actually I have a Vision Pro here. There's a little dial up here. You can turn it to sort of scale that back away from the edges, right? And again, when you're creating the apps, you kind of decide on these kind of things. And this is what the slide that Apple provided for us to sort of show the different types of apps, right? But last year they added, or last WWDC, they added a couple more modes to it. So you've got on the very left-hand side, you got your traditional 2D, you've got your 3D type of thing, which I just talked about with the volumes. You have spatial, where you're looking at things and they're presented to people in stereoscopic vision, right? There's a new video format they've added support for, called 180 degree, which is basically like the whole, like from top to bottom, 360 degrees around you, but 180 degree of your peripheral. So it's like you feel like you're in another place. There's an app where you can go to London and you can stand in front of London at Piccadilly Circus, and you can see all the people walking around in a video that's presented in that 180 format. A 360 format is one where it's completely surrounding you, like all the way around you, above, below. There's apps like that have star fields, where you can look at the night sky and see where the stars are. You can click on the constellations and find out about them. There's a new format they've added called wide field of view, which is basically taking a video and sort of wrapping it around you. And then, of course, what they've called the Apple Immersive Video, which is the one with the elephant, so I was just showing you a few minutes ago. The Vision Pro also maps your room. As you're sitting in your room and you're looking around at the walls and everything, the Vision Pro is actually making a 3D model of your room. And so you can apply world anchors. One example here is with the widgets, because if you build an app like an iOS app or iPad app, and you put a widget in it and you make it available on the Vision Pro, even if it's an iPad app and it has a widget in it, then you can have a widget like this. And this is my, beside my couch over to the right of me, or to the left of me, you get my guitar hanging there, but I've got a door to my furnace room with nothing on it. So I'm able to put a clock up there, and it's really cool 3D clock. I get the news highlights. I can look at some of my cameras around the house and that kind of stuff. So, and these things, every time I put my Vision Pro on, they reappear over there, right? So I'm looking at my door right now. It's just a blank white door, but when I put my Vision Pro on, I get these things. And I can leave them around the house. I can go to like another city and put one up in the other city, leave, come back, 6 months later, and my widget will still be there in theory. And then, so in terms of getting into sort of the learning path of Vision, I made this mind map when I was first writing the course on things I wanted to cover. So you've got, the window, volume, immersive, and various resources that you can use. And then you can break it down. So you've got Swift UI up there. You can, just have an iOS or an iPad. You can target the iOS, target visionOS. You can target both. You can work with Reality Composer Pro. Reality Composer Pro is kind of like a 3D environment that Apple provides, which is a tool that you can use to lay out objects and create scenes, they're called. Or you can use Reality Kit, which is basically a coder way. You can basically write code to present things in Reality View, which we'll talk about in a minute. Reality View is a special kind of Swift UI view that's specifically for the Vision OS. I'm not sure if it's come over to iPad and iOS. It may have, because I know that some of the Reality Kit stuff works in iOS now. And then you've got AR View, which is like your traditional AR Kit things. AR Kit's been around for a while in Mac development or in Apple development. And then you've got UI Kit apps. Like I said before, if you have an iPad app that's already built, you can publish it to visionOS and people can use it on the visionOS store. You got your volume apps, generally written in Swift UI, specifically, usually using Reality Composer Pro or Reality Kit. But you can also write things in Unity 3D, which is a gaming environment. And now they've added support for Unreal as well, so you can do games in Unreal. And there's support for Godot, but Godot's only doing within a window. It's not really a volume, right? So it's not. It hasn't made it onto the slide yet. And then you've got the immersive stuff. Again, these are various different ways of doing things. And by the way, just in case people are curious about using Unity, it works with a pro level app license. And when you build a Unity app for visionOS, you write it specifically in Unity. There's no sort of iOS interface. So the whole thing is done in Unity. Yeah, and then generally we create 3D models and bring them in, and we use what's called USDZ files. It didn't have a slide here for USDZ, but USDZ is Universal Scene Description File, and it's something developed by Pixar and Apple and NVIDIA, and it's a sort of standard for creating resources that are used in 3D applications and 3D environments. On the other side, Reality Kit, as you dig deeper into it, Reality Kit uses a number of things to sort of, this is, again, a map I made to help me write the course. You got the entity component system over on the left-hand side. You have components. You have any object you create in or use in visionOS is an entity basically, and then entities have features or components, like whether they're applied to physics or gravity, or you can tap on them and they'll react, kind of thing. But entities can be they can be an object like a model, but it can also be a light or a sound or some sort of a particle emitter, for example. And then there are systems, and systems are like what happens when you interact with these things, kind of thing. And that's sort of the entity component system part of things. Yeah, and there's the PBR has to do with lighting. The Vision Pro will take into consideration the lighting in your room that you're in physically and adapt the way the colors land on the objects in front of you. I'll show you a video of that in a little bit. And then you can also write stuff in Metal and ARKit. Maybe a little bit more advanced for this talk, but there are ways of using Metal to create. In Metal, you basically decide exactly what's going to be rendered on the screen, and that's kind of what you end up doing there, right? So, and again, we use there's a couple of different ways. At the bottom there on the right-hand side, you've got Model 3D, and then you've got Reality View to basically to present the stuff. The tools that we use to create Vision Pro or visionOS applications, SwiftUI primarily is the language, I guess, we use. Xcode 26 can work with Xcode 16 if you're still on Xcode 16, but Xcode 26 is sort of the standard right now. Reality Kit is the coding version of creating and describing and giving properties to models that you would use in Reality Kit. And then Reality Composer Pro is sort of a GUI-based tool that shares a lot of similarities with Reality Kit. It came out of a program called Reality Composer, which you might remember from iPad days. That's been deprecated, and now Reality Composer Pro has taken over. You can also decide to write an AR kit and using Metal, as I mentioned before, and of course Unity Pro is another tool. So let's take a couple at a couple of apps. This is an application from early in the sort of thing. I don't know if this is really a real application now, but it was a prototype that they had built. This gentleman is walking. He's in a rock quarry. He's looking at a pile of rocks. A stockpile, it's called. And with that, he can create a model and then estimate the amount of yardage of stones there are in that particular rock pile. That's kind of a cool application. Another app idea might be this one here, where the gentleman is using the Vision Pro in construction. He's got this is a DeWalt Bluetooth-enabled tape measure. He can measure the span between a couple of pieces of wood to figure out how long that piece of wood needs to be to make a cut for it. So he stretches it out. He pushes a button on the tape measure, and boom, it appears on the Vision Pro. And then the same thing with the height, does the same thing again. And then behind him, there's a DeWalt cutter. He can basically take that over and set up the thing and print out a barcode enabled sticker that he puts on the piece of wood, so the construction folks will know where that particular piece of wood goes into the building that they're working on. So it's kind of a cool application there. This was one to sort of pay attention to. This is the bit about the lighting. This is an example from NVIDIA where she's changing the color of the car, and she's looking at it in this environment, and she changes the environment, and notice the paint color changes based on the environment that she's in. And then she can walk over to this chair, call up a virtual model of this car, and now it looks to her as if she's sitting inside this car. She sees the dashboard, she sees the controls and that kind of stuff, right? This one I just literally found yesterday. This is a cool little application. It's not a new one, but it's a portal where you basically can you got this portal, and through the portal you see an immersive environment in Shanghai in this case. And as he steps through the portal, there's his living room behind him, and now what he sees on the screen is Shanghai, and he can walk around the back of the portal, which you'll do in a second here, and you'll see his living room disappears, and he's still inside and mind you, he's got to watch he doesn't trip over the couch or the coffee table and that kind of stuff. But kind of a cool little application. Apple talked about portals in the first go rounds of Vision Pro development. We kind of looked at them and go, why would we do that? But now it's kind of like, Star Trek, right? It's like the computer arch. I don't know if you guys remember, I did a talk a couple of weeks ago on Swift Data. This is again that same app that I was developing at the time. I set this slide deck up just to show that this is actually built in Swift UI. So this is the application that I wrote. All the different parts of it and that kind of stuff that I used to make this thing, and I can change over the target in the probably did it too quick. At the bottom there it says iPhone Dynamic Island, and if I move over here, you can see that now it's showing me the simulator in the canvas view on a Vision Pro. So this is what the app would look like on the Vision Pro. So you can very quickly, even if you don't have the hardware, you can see what this is going to look like. And then you can actually build it out to the actual Vision Pro simulator. And this is like a 2D version. You can navigate around, you can scroll up and down, you can go in and out. You can interact with the things. And this is the same app I showed you guys had built for the Swift Data course. Okay, so how do we do this in Xcode? So when you build an app and you choose Vision Pro as the target, or you choose multi-platform as the target, you'll get in a multi-platform version, it'll automatically select iOS, iPadOS, visionOS, and macOS. But generally speaking, this is the main app file that we're looking at here. This is the scene we're defining in the app. In the app itself. But what's new here, or what's different here, is you've got your course list view, which would be the first view that loads up when the app runs. And then we set a window style on it with this modifier. And in the modifier, you can choose it automatic, it'll automatically decide based on the type of app it is. You can say plain, or you can say volumetric. If you're doing a volume or an immersive one, you may choose to have the window style be volumetric, so that the Vision Pro, the visionOS knows what your intention is. So as I mentioned before, Reality View is a special subset of a special version of a Swift UI view. But in this case here, in the closure up there. We've got content and attachments. I'm not going to talk about attachments here, but the content piece is kind of the piece to keep an eye on here. So in this particular case, I'm using Reality Kit to create a ball. And you can see that I'm using model entity there. I don't know if I can. Oh, I can. I do have a marker here. Cool. So I've got a model entity here, and yeah. So then I'm generating. I'm generating sphere. I'm generating this sphere. I'm setting it a radius of half a meter, or sorry, not half a meter, 5 centimeters. The 1.0 would be a meter. I'm choosing like simple color. I'm making it white, and I'm saying metallic, which basically means it'll have shiny metal effects. So it'll look like it'll reflect the room around you, and it does. It actually looks at the room you're in and maps. The Vision Pro is amazing that way. The cameras that makes it look like it's there. I haven't showed here just for the sake of getting this code on the screen here, but then you would set position X, position Y, and position Z, and or Z, I guess you guys say. um, I'm Canadian again. And then another important thing, if I want to have interaction with it, if I want to be able to tap on it, I have to set an import target on it. And these are components. Remember I talked about the entity component system. You got the model, you have the components, which add the properties. Collision one, if I want to basically have some sort of collision on it. And you'll notice too that the I can't really see this because there's something in front of me, but the collision shape is also a sphere because I'm making a ball, right? And it's the same size as 0.05. And then to add physics to it, I create a physics body component and I add that to it. I give it some mass to give it some weight. The static friction, dynamic friction, and restitution are like how bouncy it is. If it bounces off the floor or what have you, or if it gets bounced by something. These are some things you can set. And mode dynamic basically means that when I pick it up, it's going to stick onto my finger until I let go, and then you would switch it to a kinetic, and then it would move around the room or whatever. And then the important thing, yeah, so here you can say affected by gravity. So if I put this ball in the middle of the screen and I don't add gravity to it, it's just going to stay floating in the air. But if I put gravity on it, it's going to drop to the floor, or it's going to drop onto the next nearest neighbor. And then the important part, which I mentioned before about content, is now I'm adding the ball to the view. And then, so this is the secret sauce. This is where it actually makes it appear on the screen kind of thing, right? So that's reality view. And I tend to like reality view better than the next one, which is model 3D, because the reality view, you can add animations to things, you can add labels to things, you can apply different effects to things in your view. If you're building a game or whatever, you'd want to use reality view for sure. All right, so the Model 3D this is a more simpler version of a view than a reality view. It's a way, like if you were building a product catalog and you just wanted to load up a sofa, a TV, a stereo system, a shoe, a dress, a lamp, you could just simply use a Model 3D. And in that case, you could have it, you can rotate it, like spin it, that kind of thing. But you don't have the same kind of, you can't animate it, you can't do other stuff to it. And it's just as simple as loading it either from the bundle itself, from a model, the app bundle from a model, or a USDZ file at a URL. So here's two examples: loading up a robot drummer. Apple's got some quick view examples of models that you can download and play with in your projects. And so Robot Drummer is one of them. I don't know if you've probably seen it. It's a little toy drummer that they have. And you can decide, if it wants to be resizable, how it's going to fit, same as you would with anything else. And then you've got the progress view here is just while it's loading, you see the spinner instead of nothing when the model's loading. And you can also load that same, or a model, in this case here, robot USDZ, from a website and set a width and height of it. So that's kind of how you would use that. I just assumed that I had showed you Xcode. In Xcode, you would see like a whole list of files. Yeah, you probably saw it in the previous file I just showed. And I think before I talked to you guys, you weren't doing Swift Package Manager yet. Have you done that yet?
We had a little bit of an introduction to it when Manny presented.
Okay. By the way, I see some chats here, which I'm not keeping an eye on the chat window.
Yeah, there's just a few. Someone asked, in regard to 3D, to watching movies in
Yeah.
3D, does the movie have to be shot in 3D in order to
Yeah.
view it in 3D?
Yeah, currently, it's cool. There is a thing with 2D photography where Apple and now Amazon, or not Amazon, what's the other, Android guys, they now have a VR system. You can take a 2D image, you can turn it into a stereoscopic image, and it's pretty cool. It actually looks sometimes better than something you would shoot on your phone with spatial. But yeah, in order for a movie to like a commercial movie has to be available on the App Store in 3D as well, right? So if you shoot yourself with a Insta 360, or the big camera that Apple uses is called an Ursa cinema camera, and it's Ursa Blackmagic Ursa Cinema. It's big giant thing with like two lenses in the front of it. Canon also has a camera that um, can shoot stereo as well. But yeah, so like for instance, the Fantastic Four movie just came out. It's now on Disney Plus. All the movies that are in 3D and Disney in the Disney app, generally speaking, are presented in 3D. So all the most of the Marvel movies, Black Widow, the last two of the Avenger movies, they're all in 3D and they're amazing to watch. It depends also in your market. Like I noticed that I had some stuff that was available to me in 3D on the App Store, but Apple or Paramount has taken it away from me, so I'm not very happy about that. So the other question from Ike is, okay, maybe, does your eye get tired after a while? I think it's interesting that Apple's done a lot of science into the Vision Pro. I know that they're doing something like they're stimulating your eye constantly when you're looking at the screens, so that you don't get fatigue or motion sickness. That said, though, there are some people who just get motion sickness on the Vision Pro and they can't use it at all. But I think it's a very small number of people. I think the biggest problem that people have with the Vision Pro is the weight of the device. It's about I think it's a little 700 grams is what it weighs. And I'm lucky because I used to be a goaltender when I was playing hockey, so I always had a heavy helmet on. So I guess I kind of got used to having something on. I've gone, anywhere from like 30 minutes to 6 or 7 hours wearing Vision Pro. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think probably the weight and pressure on your face is another thing that a lot of people complain about. But I actually use my Vision Pro without the light seal, which is the part that touches your face. I have a device called Ana Pro, which basically makes the Vision Pro float in front of my eyes like a pair of glasses would. Do you need to have you mean a computer science background? I don't think you need to have a computer science degree or a science degree at all to do this stuff. You can, I mean, I'm self-taught. I completely self-taught on all of this stuff, iOS and visionOS and 3D as well. I've been doing 3D for a number of years, but anyway. So getting back to what I was talking about before, here, let me just, you can see over here, like, you've got your normal on the left-hand side, you got your product navigator, you got all your list of assets down there. And if this was a Vision Pro app, you would see just before the preview content there, you would see at the bottom, you would see this here. Okay, so you would see this packages folder, and inside you've got this Reality Kit content. Inside of that, you've got this package which defines the stuff that's in the package. You may have learned about that. And then within that, you get these the materials here that are listed here. And then you've got this Reality Composer Pro file at the bottom that I'm showing. And when I click on it, the little plane you see there on the little grid on the right-hand side, that's the view of the Reality Composer Pro file. And then pay attention to this scene here, right? And immersive scene and the biplane, right? Those will become important on the next screen. So when you click on, there's a button you click on, it says open that particular file in Reality Composer Pro. And so there's the scene up there at the top, which I talked about, right? And this at the very top of this is a root, and underneath it is the objects. And in this in the case here, the one I've got highlighted is this biplane model, right? And you can see at the bottom, there's like a project or assets that are available in this particular file. So this is like a way of looking inside the package. And up here, this little plus up here gives you access to a whole series of different objects, spheres, materials like wood, marble, metal. There's cylinders and cones and all kinds of objects you can bring in and you can assemble to make your particular objects that are on your scene. In the case of because the plane's got this yellow highlight around it, and then in the inspector over here, you can see that I can set the position in space. So at this point in time, it's at 0, 0, 0, but I can, and its scale is like down to like a 1% of the actual size of the model. So I can scale it up or I can scale it down. I can move it way back in the view, or I can bring it forward, that kind of stuff. And the viewport is kind of where you work. It's kind of like your editor in the middle where you work on things. And then there's a new feature called timelines, which I think I've got a slide for. Yeah, next slide actually, which Apple added in 2024 WWDC. So here you've got, like here in this example, I've got this little Tosakin goldfish, and I want to basically make an orbit. So I've got this little circle here, this little sphere, and I'm going to make the fish orbit around it like the Earth or the moon orbits the Earth. And so down here in the timeline, I can select the fish and I can set an orbit on it. I can add some spin to it and animate it. And then when I hit play, I can get a preview of when I hit play. There we go. And you can see I can actually play with the animation in my app. And I can also do that in Reality Kit. I can also, in code, I could tell the goldfish to animate as well, right? So that's how you do an immersive app, or create an immersive scene. And then, did I? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So here in your code, in either your content view, or if you have a volume view, for example, you have your reality view here. There's your content again, and then here I'm loading. There's that scene that I talked about, right? So I'm looking in my package in the reality content bundle here. That's the package that I've loaded that's loaded up there. And again, when you create a Vision Pro project, you'll get the bundle automatically. You don't have to kind of go and find it. It's right there. But this again, I'm adding the scene to the content, right? From the closure, and then basically this will appear. And then in an update closure, I can start an animation, and I would have a button on the screen, which I'm not showing, but I would have a button where I would say start animation, stop animation. And in this case here, the fish will, flap its fins, or in the case of the biplane, it kind of bobs up and down and the propeller goes around. I think I'll show a slide of that in a minute. So this is, again, how you would load up a volume with an immersive app. Oh, let me clear my markings. In an immersive app, you have, again, in all of these things, you would load Reality Kit and Reality Kit content at the top of the file. I forgot to mention that. So this is the modifying the app itself, right, to make it support an immersive environment. So I have a state up there for current style, and I'm setting the immersion style to full. This is going to be the full surround the user kind of experience. Again, now we've added this immersive space at the bottom here, and then we'll tell the app to load the immersive space. So we'll start off in our content viewer. In this case here, it's called course list view, and then we will have a button that will open. Here, I'll show you the next slide here actually. So here at the top, I've got the show immersive space, and then whether or not it's shown true or not false. Those are both booleans. And here we would have a button that would say, show the space. And the idea behind that is Apple doesn't want you to throw people into an immersive app right away. They want you to have an introductory space where they can decide that, they're ready to do the immersion, and then they jump into the immersion. In the case like that Portal app I showed you, he put the circle on the floor, and then the immersion appeared in front of him. So here you would have a button that would say, show immersive space, and then you would take them into an immersion, right? Another cool thing. So I just want to show this is a sky view or skybox. In gaming, you generally paint this on the inside of a sphere, right? So you'll notice that this is actually a bunch of the Kodeco alumni. I don't know if Eric knows any of these people, but Sam obviously is our CTO. He's the guy with the glasses from there. I think Adrian is still on the team over on the left-hand side, but the rest of these guys are all former members who've moved on to working for big companies. And just pay attention to how curved the roof is. So this is a typical 3D file that you would load up in what's called a skybox. And then you would apply that in your app in such a way that, so there's my little plane, it's animating, it's orbiting. But if I look around the room, this is what I see is you see all these, I'm like a little tiny person on the table and these guys are all around me, right? Kind of thing. This is a picture that Matt, the guy there with the glasses, the black t-shirt, he had this little camera back in the day and he took this 3D picture and I borrowed it from him to show this is how what you could kind of crazy things you could do. Notice the lines on the ceiling are all looking straight now, which I think is really kind of cool. So that's kind of how I would make an immersion, right? This is an example of a volumetric app where you can interact with a model that's animating and you can change the animation based on the kind of conditions, whether somebody has a particular problem with their heart or whatever. You can actually you can interact with it using hand tracking. So you can pick it up and move it around. You can change the conditions of whether the person has various types of ailments on their heart and what that would look like. So if you were making an app for surgeons to learn, medical students to learn, this could be how you do it. And you notice that this is in my kitchen. So this is a mixed, sorry, I'm hearing sounds from my computer. So this is an example of a mixed environment where I've got, I'm looking at my kitchen, but I'm seeing this heart floating in space. This is another cool app where this is a prototype that somebody had written early in the day. It's basically this gray thing across the top is like a virtual piece of fabric, and I've got a real chair just below it. And when I drop it, it recognizes the chair in space, and see how the model actually reacts to real things in the environment, right? So that's a kind of a cool application of a thing. And then here's an example where I'm using hand tracking has been used in this app. Turn over my hands. Looks like I have robot hands. I start the game, and this is a game where you objects fly. So this is immersion. So now I'm completely immersed in this environment. This is all I see is this. And as I have to punch, with the left or right hand, depending on the color of the box. And then I'm not very good at it. I end up failing here, but yeah, it's a good workout. Like, I'm standing up and I'm, moving my body and, it's all kinds of stuff. So I'm not just sitting on a couch kind of thing, right? Sort of thing. So that's kind of a cool application there. And then this is talking about the boot camp, but I think I kind of sort of talked about it in terms of what we teach in the course. And then here's some useful links that I think might be useful to you guys. If you're interested in going to a developer lab to look at the Vision Pro and work with it, to try it out yourself, that's the link there to find out when there's a developer lab available. Of course, we have the Kodeco iOS course on visionOS, which is that second link. And then there's a couple of groups. This one link here is a group that's Vision Pro developers that are on LinkedIn. And then Step Into Vision is a site created by a friend of mine who is quite active in the Vision Pro community. So he's put like 400 lessons and short little videos and stuff like that up on his on this Step Into Vision site. And then there was one more slide. Come back. Clicked on the wrong thing here. There, I clicked on the wrong window.
We had a quick question about the Heart 3D model.
Yeah.
Did you build that from scratch or from a 2D picture? And how do you build custom models for Vision OS?
Yeah, that's not actually by me. That's actually an app that's on the App Store. That basically would have built a model in a program like Blender or Houdini or there's a number of 3D apps, and they would create linkages that would make the movement of the heart itself, and then they build into that. So that would be like a USDZ file or USDZ file. USDZ is how you guys say it, yeah. And then that would be built into the animation is actually built into the USDZ file, and then they're using the code to basically animate the different ways that the heart would beat based on different conditions, sort of kind of thing. So there's a lot of things going on. I mean, it's not, it's not. There's a lot of depth in terms of vision or building apps for Vision OS like that. There, you need somebody who can make a model. You need somebody who can make the material or the texture we call it, to make the model look like it's got muscles and various heart or parts of the heart. And then you would have, the same person or another person might animate it. Then you, as the Vision OS developer, would then bring that into an app and make it animate, or tell it to when to animate and that kind of stuff.
I have one last question before
Sure.
we go. What do you think about the future of the device? Like, do you see it as more of a like an industrial product facing like big companies, or do you see a future like an iPhone? Or in other words, does it worth to invest in B2C kind of applications to build for Vision OS today?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's definitely there is a lot of interest in let's call it enterprise level development,
Mm-hmm.
where it's for big companies. I know that one of the people that's on the Vision Pro group works for West Airlines. And like I said before, there are people using it in surgery and stuff like that, right? And their
Mm-hmm.
architecture. So those are kind of where we're seeing it today, kind of being used, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of opportunity, I think, for different app ideas to go onto the App Store and have a successful career as a developer currently.
Mm-hmm.
But what I see this as is to me, this is a little bit like, I mean, I had the first iPhone, right? In
Mm-hmm.
fact, behind me there's an iPhone behind me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's the original iPhone. That was it took a while. It wasn't until iPhone 4 that really the world started paying attention to Apple and iPhone, right? I mean, at the time it was there was a lot of other things, and I think this is we're still at a pretty early time with Vision OS or Vision Pro. I think that the Apple has demonstrated to me, at least, that they've got the ability to make me think these windows are real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I have the Vision Pro on and I've got these windows floating around me, and I take off my Vision Pro and they're gone. There's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of loss in my heart, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the technology is this just showing a lot of promise for where the technology is going to go. I mean, I joke about it, but I'm not really joking about it, in that I can see a time when you have a chip that sits behind your ear, and then they make your brain think it's seeing these windows.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and there's also the idea of the AR glasses, which a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah.
I think what Apple is doing here, they're laying down the ground rules, or laying down the groundwork for future devices and future technologies and things like that. So I don't think they're done with Vision Pro in terms of like where it's going to go, or where it's going to be used, that kind of thing. They did the same thing with the Apple Watch. When the Apple Watch came out, it told time, and people thought they were going to look at their bank balance and stuff like that. And it wasn't until a few years later that everybody decided they could use it for workouts, and like it's always been for notifications, but what do you use it? You use it for health, like it tells you your heart's not
Yeah.
behaving properly. They didn't know any of that stuff when they first made the first watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sort
Mm-hmm.
of came to it after the fact, right? So I think it's early days for Vision Pro. I think it's a good thing. I'm not happy about Android coming out with their Samsung coming out with their Galaxy XR, they're calling it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy because it's competition, but I am happy because it makes the Vision Pro seem like a credible approach. Right,
Right.
because they've taken what Apple's doing, and they're making another version of it, kind of another way of looking at it, right? Same with what
Mm-hmm.
Meta's doing with the glasses, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think this is showing, um, it's not for, every member of your family is going to get a Vision Pro kind of thing yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But everybody probably has an iPhone now, right?
Right. Right.
But 10, 15 years ago, they probably didn't have an iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I know my wife didn't have an iPhone for many years until I gave her one. But
Mm-hmm.
but Yeah, so I don't think it's like, I mean, it's super cool. Like, if you and your friends can sit down and watch a 3D movie together, you're all wearing your own Vision Pro, you're looking at the same movie at the same time using share play. You can pause and whatever and it's like you're at the movie theater, but you're still sitting on your couch at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, like that meeting I have every 2 weeks with my friends from around the world. We met at a conference in Beijing, right? We all went to talk about Vision Pro, and then we decided let's keep this up. And it's been 2 years now, and we're still doing this meeting, right? And we open up, we play games together. I show them. I take a lot of pictures with my camera with my in uh spatial photos with my iPhone 17, right? So I'm always taking 3D pictures, and then so we
Mm-hmm.
look at those and look at movies we made and that kind of stuff and apps we're working on. So
Cool.
it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Sorry. So can you just talk a little bit more about you? So you said that you are not happy about what's it called, the Samsung Galaxy.
Oh,
So it's
I'm not
also
happy
the
about Android at all. Let's put it that way.
yeah, is it like a loyal to Apple? Because I also
Yeah, I'm a,
enjoy
I'm an Apple. I'm an Apple
myself
guy.
in like
An Apple guy.
Android
Yeah.
versus iOS, like even like the development, right? For like the Vision Pro and versus the other one. So
Yeah.
what's your opinion? And should we learn both or in the
Well,
future?
that's a good question. I mean, and actually, I don't know if you talked about this in your course or not, but the Swift.org people have now demonstrated that they're making Android apps with Swift, right? So using Swift UI, there's an application called Swift Tools, I think it's called. Skip Tools. There you can write your project in Xcode using Swift UI, and when you compile it, it creates an iPhone and an Android app at the same time. Um, so I think that I'm not. When I said I'm not happy about it, I'm not going to buy one. Let's put it that way. I'm an Apple guy. I'll buy the Apple one because it's shiny and has an apple on it. But but I am happy that they're coming into the market because if Vision Pro was the only technology that was doing this kind of thing, it's going to be a very very lonely island of product, right? But if other companies are coming in and taking their shot at it, I mean, the idea of I didn't talk about the history of AR and VR, but it goes back to like the 1800s, right? Like that's when they first made the stereo images, right? And then you ever use a ViewMaster when you're a kid? The thing where you have the wheel with the slides and it's like a stereo image. That's from like 1935, right? And then it wasn't in the 70s is when they first did the first computer VR where you have a monitor in front of your face and you're looking at two-dimensional or stereoscopic images that are rendered by a computer. So it's not like a new technology. It's just kind of um, Apple sort of put the best foot forward kind of thing. Um, and to be honest with you, I've watched a few reviews of the Samsung device. It does look pretty promising. I mean, obviously it's a less dollars and cent entry point. Like, I think it's I want to say 17.99 versus 35.99 US for Vision Pro. I mean, the other thing about the Samsung, I think it's only available in Korea and US right now, right? So, and that's the same thing with Vision Pro. Vision Pro is not available everywhere in the world yet either. So, but I mean, I think the fact that somebody else is trying or demonstrating or selling a product that does something similar to Vision Pro is good for Vision Pro, right?
Got it. So you're still more promise about Vision Pro, like
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, like, yeah. There's a lot of. I mean, there are. I mean, there's apps for it every day. There's new technology. Apple is still putting a lot of effort into it. They had. I don't know if you saw, but they've had sessions in Cupertino live and online over the last couple of weeks, talking about. There was one on design last week, and they touched on Vision Pro. There was one specifically on Vision Pro. They've done a number of them on the different video formats for Vision Pro, including showing the camera technologies and how to edit the videos for Vision Pro, that kind of stuff. So I think it's not a dead product like you might have heard, right? I think. I use it every day. I mean, don't get me wrong. I use my Vision Pro every single day. Like I said, I watch TV on it. I work on my Mac on it. Sometimes I work at my desk without my Vision Pro, but it's nice to sit in the kitchen and have everything I need at my fingertips and, kind of thing.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah. It's like a big giant monitor I wear on my face, right?
Well, there's, the good thing is just what you said, is that there's new entries into the market.
Yeah.
When the Vision Pro came out, that's the same time Microsoft said they were going to stop developing their AR glasses.
Yeah, the Halo, yeah.
Yeah, the Halo. And Google announced they were getting out of it as well, too. And the only person you had was Meta at the time.
Yeah.
But they're addressing a different use case. Meta's doing more on the AR side, where be inside the glasses, and so we're going to see different form factors, which is going to be pretty good. And I think Apple, there's rumor that Apple is going to have some form of a glasses type device as well.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I tell you, having worked at Apple and having worked with like products from Apple, you never know what they're working on.
Yeah.
Like there was rumors about some sort of AR glasses coming from Vision or from Apple for many, many years. And we thought they were going to come up with, we all were waiting for something at WWDC 23. And that's when they introduced the Vision Pro. And a lot of people are like, wow, that's a lot of technology in one device. And it is. I mean, there are some things in Vision Pro that I'm still amazed with it, but there are some rough edges in my opinion, like sometimes you get things that stick to your fingers and I kind of shake my hand to get them off my finger. And, there's little annoyances like that, but it's kind of like you're learning and the developers are learning and that kind of stuff. Right. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to work. Sometimes I just need to use my phone. I mean, I can also look at my phone on my Vision Pro. Like I can have this big giant phone screen, but I'm still touching my phone and, tapping on it on the device. So there's lots of different ways to work with Vision Pro, more than you would think, right? It's been like a year and a half of discovery for me, right? So, and I show it to anybody who will sit down and look at it, try it out, right? So if you're ever in Toronto and you want a demo, come by me.
All right, everybody. Jim, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and giving us this presentation. It was very interesting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Everybody else, you guys have a great rest of your day or evening. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good one.
This has been another episode of the More Than Just Code podcast. If you want to find out more about the show, you can visit the More Than Just Code website at morethanjustcode.com. There you can find a summary and show notes of each episode. We list links to the apps, code, and news that we mentioned on the show. If you like the podcast, tell your friends, leave a comment on the website, or write a review on iTunes. And please recommend us in your favorite podcatcher. All of these things help others find out about the show. We really appreciate your help with spreading the word. We'd love to hear from you, so use the hashtag AskMTJC and we may mention you on the show. Friends of the show can also join us on the podcast Slack channel. Please consider supporting the show by pledging any amount on patreon.com/MTJC. Every dollar pledged helps a lot. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.